Acting Chief Prosecutor Arta Marku has issued an appeal from Durrës for the Assembly to adopt legal changes needed to fill the vacuum left by the Constitutional Court's decision regarding displacement proceedings against magistrates as soon as possible. The CEC has called on political parties to submit the names of their members to the EAZC, reiterating that despite none of the parties having submitted their list, today's deadline will not be extended. Despite the threat of an opposition boycott, the Socialists seem to be taking the preparations for local elections seriously, with Edi Rama calling for 100% attendance at the party congress to be held on the 23rd of March. Good evening, it's 6 o'clock on Monday the 18th of March 2019. Welcome to the English edition of Ora News. My name is Alexandra and I'm here to bring you the day's top stories from across the country translated into English. During the annual analysis of the prosecutions of Durrës, Kavaya and Elbasan, Marku said that the Constitutional Court's decision regarding disciplinary proceedings against magistrates has actually created an inability to act. Arta Marku accepted that the inability of the General Prosecutor to intervene against abusive prosecutors was the recipient of frequent negative comments. However, she added that the root cause of this was the failure in establishing the High Inspector of Justice. The functioning of disciplinary mechanisms is both indispensable and vital. In the absence of these mechanisms, independence is nothing but a golden opportunity for abuse. Likewise, I appeal to the Assembly to comply with the transitional provision as to who determines the competencies of the General Prosecutor and the Inspectors of the High Council of Justice with the purpose of undergoing disciplinary proceedings, with concrete proposals for the measures to be taken before the High Council of the Prosecution or the High Judicial Council, said Prosecutor Marku. The prosecutor noted that there are many complaints from citizens made to the Office of the General Prosecutor and to the media. During the exercise of primary functions, many problems have been identified. As part of the complaints from citizens were addressed to the General Prosecution, some complaints were addressed to the media, and the result is the appearance of various problems on investigative emissions. Marku considered the current state of the prosecution and the justice system itself as problematic, as according to her, prosecutors operate independently or totally uninfluenced, and consequently the functioning of disciplinary mechanisms is necessary. The Chief Prosecutor said that in the absence of these mechanisms, independence is nothing but an opportunity for abuse at the expense of the citizens, as well as a violation of the image of justice. Today marks the Central Election Commission's deadline for submitting the list of candidates for the Electoral Administration Zone Commission members, and as such also presented the first official signal that the opposition may intend to boycott the local elections. Speaking on behalf of the CEC, Drilona Horjai released a statement today regarding the deadline for Commission submissions. Reconfirming that today, March 18, is the deadline to submit the proposals for the Electoral Administration Zone Commission members, Horjai added that up until this moment, none of the parties have yet provided their proposals for second-level commissioners to the CEC. The Central Election Commission appeals to all political parties that have the right to propose members for the EAZC to respect the legal deadline for the submission of candidacies. Not meeting the deadline indicates a lack of responsibility in regards to the fulfilment of duties as stipulated by the Electoral Code. The CEC will not allow any delays regarding candidacies. Therefore, we seek all parties to urgently submit their proposals for EAZC members by close of business today, and as such, not to infringe on the electoral process. Delayed proposals threaten the professional preparations by the commissioners and the progress of the process, all the while damaging the quality of elections, explained the CEC spokesperson Drilona Horjai. In response to the CEC's statements, so far only the Socialist Party has responded, and they did so by submitting their list of names to the Central Election Commission. Socialist Group Chair Talwant Bala confirmed that the Socialist Party will respect the legal deadlines. The fact that some candidates from the DP and SMI lists did choose to accept their mandates is a point that will be raised by the Socialist Party and used as an opportunity to continue with amendments to the Electoral Code. Should the Central Election Commission not receive the submission from the Democratic Party or the Socialist Movement for Integration, the CEC will complement the candidate pool with members of civil society. Other legal deadlines are also fast approaching, including the requirement to register parties wishing to participate in local elections by April 20, as well as submitting the list of party candidates to run in said elections by May 13th. The President of the Republic, Ilir Meta, today attended a conference entitled Against Culture of Elimination, aimed at producing societies with a culture of love. President Ilir Meta reiterated that he has taken all possible actions to avoid the country's political situation, but that the parties have been pushing to deepen the crisis. I want to assure all Albanians that the President has taken all possible action over an extended period of time to avoid this serious situation, which is not just a political crisis, but a constitutional and institutional one. It is regrettable that the parties have rushed and are pushing to deepen this crisis. But again, my duty is to call for reflection, because we must all look at the interests of our country and our citizens who seek normality. At the same time, we seek to add Albania's contribution as a factor of stability in this region and to important challenges. This internal situation does not help us in this regard. Meta has called on the political parties to bear their responsibilities and to not hide behind anyone in the international community. I think the political class should hold to its responsibilities and ensure they do not hide behind any international. The issue should be resolved transparently and far from the bargains and abuses of any international, said President Meta. In a statement to the media, President Ilir Meta has reacted to recent declarations by the ruling majority that Russia has influence in Albania at administration levels. Meta said that the Russian influence should not be used to conceal the real causes of the political and constitutional crisis. In a short statement for the media, Meta also commented on the so-called Russian war against Balkan countries integrating into the EU. We are aware of Russia's often toxic effects in our region, but I do not believe this is a problem in the case of Albania. However, we should not refer to the risk posed by Russia to conceal the real causes of this constitutional, institutional, political and moral crisis that has been created by us and requires reflection from everyone, concluded Meta. Preceding the upcoming local elections, the Socialists will hold a party congress on March 23rd. According to their statutes, all former Socialist Prime Ministers will be invited to attend, including Fatos Nano. The proceedings of the Congress will be divided into 3 sessions, including local elections, co-governance and the University Pact. It is also expected that the list of candidates that will be offered for the highest spot in municipal elections will be discussed, whilst only the list of municipal councillors for Tirana will be published. Sources from the Socialist Party group meeting said that the head of the Socialist Party, Edi Rama, has absolutely demanded a 100% attendance rate at the Congress on the 23rd of March. The SP has a preliminary list of potential candidates to run for the position of mayor across the municipalities, but is still closely following the polls in each of the areas to determine their official lists based on those who have given the greatest contributions. The SP executives nominated Damian Gignori as Secretary of Electoral Affairs to coordinate the work on electoral reform. The Democratic Party was quick to react to this decision by the SP to offer the role to the former Infrastructure and Energy Minister, Damian Gignori, by labelling his name as a symbol of the theft of the vote. The party's official response retorts, according to File 184, this person is supposed to be in jail, and yet today he receives the post of Secretary on Electoral Reform. The Director of the Internal Affairs and Complaints Service within the State Police, Met Rumbulaku, reported to the Security Commission today in a meeting held behind closed doors. Although the media was not present, it was understood that some deficiencies in the operations of the police force institution were raised, including the lack of infrastructure, funds and human resources. The Chief of the Internal Affairs and Complaints Service has requested greater support from the Assembly for the approval of a law on granting competencies and expanding funds to acquire the missing infrastructure. Another issue which was discussed in the Commission was the process of verifying police officers, otherwise known as vetting. The IACS leader was asked to increase human resourcing for the purposes of assessing the police effectives. They stressed the need for this institution to conduct a permanent assessment of police officers rather than just for a transitional period. The meeting of the Commission was headed up by the MP Ermonela Felai. Numerous representatives from the majority were present at the Commission, whereas only one MP, Muslim Murizi, was in attendance from the side of the opposition. And that's the news across the country today. Thank you for watching our English edition this evening, and be sure to join us again every Monday to Saturday at 6 p.m. for the latest news from Albania. Once again, on behalf of Ora News, thank you and good night.